So every single day, part of my morning routine is reading a daily proverb. I read one chapter based upon the day of the month that it is. So today is July the 6th, so I read Proverbs 6. And this literally gives me direct access to God's wisdom. It helps me grow mentally as a man. It helps me grow spiritually as a man. It brings me closer to God because it gives me insight as to how I'm supposed to govern myself, as to how I'm supposed to live, as to how I'm supposed to lead myself, as to how I'm supposed to lead other people, as to how I'm supposed to show up in my community, as to how I'm supposed to serve other people. It literally gives me all that wisdom and that access. All right, what's good with y'all boys, man? Back at y'all with another video. Now, as you read by the title and thumbnail, you will find this video when God knows that you are ready to discover your purpose. You will always feel unfulfilled as a man if you are just going through the motions, going through trial and error, always hitting rock bottom, always going through inconsistency, simply because you don't know what your purpose is and you can't commit to it. Each and every one of us as men, we have a purpose as to why we are here on this planet, right? And the easiest way for you to find your purpose, this is what I found, is to simply hone in on your specific, unique skills, gifts, and talents, things that you are just naturally good at, right? And also you combine that with things that you are naturally just passionate about, things that you desire. In the middle is where you will find your purpose. I was passionate about creating freedom for myself. I was passionate about just really just personally developing, right? I fell in love with just strengthening my mindset. I fell in love with just working out, right? Just taking care of myself and improving myself in every aspect. And I also realized that I had a unique skill set for just communication, articulating myself, motivating and inspiring others, right? So I mixed that together and I found that my passion, or I found that my purpose, was to literally just turn the camera on and inspire people, to plant seeds for people to just wake themselves up, essentially, to discover the truth and the purpose for themselves as they go down their own unique journey. And so this is what I've been doing for the past 5 years, and it's been completely liberating. But the reason that you as a man need to find your purpose is because you can't really lock into your full maximum potential until you discover your purpose, because you're always going to go where you think the money is. When you don't have a purpose, you always just chase the money. Before I really just honed in on what I truly was here to do, I was just chasing the money. That's why I always switched business models. That's why my content was always switching up. That's why I was always inconsistent, because I was simply just looking for where the money was at. And the problem with that is you may be able to make money like that, but you will always go back to what your internal programming is aligned with. So if you're not identifying as the person who can make that money by actually devoting to your purpose, you're not going to stay consistent with it. Because what I realized is just the money is not enough to just always be consistent, right? In the beginning, it'll be the greatest motivator, but over time you'll burn out because you're not truly passionate about it. You're just chasing money. And if you're just chasing money, that's simply just a means to an end. So I'm reading this book. If you haven't read this book, you need to go read it. It's called The One Thing. This is literally probably one of the best books I've read this year. But yesterday when I was reading 20 pages. I read 20 pages a day. So one thing that stuck out was basically the breakdown of purpose, priorities, productivity, and then profit, right? It gave this example of like an iceberg. And so it was saying that only like 1/9 of an iceberg can be seen. So essentially what you see is not the depth of how big the iceberg is or how deep the iceberg goes into the actual ocean. And so people are just looking at the byproduct. The same thing with social media. You are always just looking at the byproduct of the work that people put in. You're seeing their lavish lifestyles. You see the penthouses, the cars, right? The women, the money, whatever the case may be, the fancy clothes. You see all the fruits of their labor, basically. And you're always just chasing those things. You see all the materialistic stuff. You get the shiny object syndrome. You're like, man, I want to live a life like that. I want to drive a car like that. I want to stay in a penthouse like that. I want to live in Miami. I want to make 100K a month. All this different stuff, right? You have all these different desires, different ideas just roaming through your head. And you're like, man, what do I need to do? The lowest layer of the iceberg, which is essentially the deepest into the ocean, is purpose. You will never achieve real fulfillment, real success until you are aligned with your purpose. Because basically your purpose is the one big thing, the one reason that you're here on this planet, the one thing that keeps you up at night, the one thing that gets you going when you first wake up in the morning. That is your purpose, right? That is your compass as you go through your days. Then right above that is your priorities, right? So the one thing that you prioritize based on what your purpose is. And this is also very important because it narrows down to the specifics, right? You have one big thing, which is your purpose, and you have one thing to focus on, which is one action that's prioritized in alignment with your purpose. So with my purpose being to plant seeds so that men can discover who God created them to be, My overall priority would be to literally provide as much value as I can, sharing my unique story and transformation to basically impart the wisdom that I've learned throughout my journey so that you can take action and you can go do your own research and discover your God-given purpose, and you can fulfill your mission as to why you are here as well. And so what is directly above that is productivity. See, it always seems like the one percenters are just moving in a flow state. They're moving super fast. They're making all these different decisions, right? They're making all this money, making all these moves, and everything just looks like they're just living in a movie. It's not because of sheer willpower. This is why it looks so effortless. This is why their lives just look like they're not even working. It looks like they're just having fun, living life all day, right? But they are being productive because it's the strategic things that they do that has allowed them to get to where they're at right now. So everything looks effortless. And this is what comes down to basically taking your purpose, taking the prioritized action from your purpose, and just consistently doing it over time. This is what creates productivity. You have to realize that busyness is not productivity, right? You have to focus on being effective. Being effective is what causes the utmost level of productivity. And this comes down doing the prioritized work that is directly aligned with your purpose. And this is why you always fall off and can't be consistent, because you're not doing anything that's aligned with your purpose. This is probably why you feel like you're just an outsider at your job and why 9-to-5s are just not for you. Because you know deep down inside, this is not what you're here to do. This is not what you're passionate about. You were just doing this for a check. This is why all day you're at work thinking of ideas. Man, when can I get my big break? When can I get the escape? How much work do I have to put in so I can finally be able to quit this job? Because you want to go all in on what you are passionate about. And so the last thing, the tip of the iceberg that you actually see is the profit, right? It is the lifestyle. Is the fruits of the labor. It's the rewards for the inputs that you put in. So what you must realize is you never get to the profits. You never get to the lifestyle. You never get to the materialistic things that you may desire unless you start first with the purpose. Because your purpose, once you understand it, is going to allow you to seek out the most important things that you should be doing every day to fulfill this purpose. Once you make it a priority and you start doing these things every single day, no days off, you never miss, this is what allows for productivity and for you to move at a rapid rate and for you to continue to grow each and every day. And that is what leads to the profit. And so let's say that you have discovered your purpose, right? You've locked into what you're passionate about. You've locked into what you deeply desire, and you've connected that with the things that you are good at, just naturally gifted at. So now you have your purpose. But now you're like, okay, well, how do I figure out exactly what needs to be done? Like what work I should be prioritizing the most? Because I know it's a lot of things that I could be doing, but how do I just lock in to make sure that I'm doing the most important work? So what you do is, this also came from the book, The One Thing. So what they taught is how to figure out how to take the right action. So the first thing that you must do is you have to ask big and specific questions, right? Big and specific questions. This is very important because this allows you to expand your mind and get to thinking outside the box. So you have to remove the limiting beliefs. You have to remove the scarcity mindset. And the easiest way to do this is what it taught in the book, which is simply there's 3 answers that you can get. So if you ask big and specific questions, you need to find big and specific answers. And so based upon the answers that you receive, there's 3 ways to go about taking action based on those answers. The first way is doing something that is doable, meaning based on who you currently are right now, the action that you take is fully within your means. Meaning that it's probably something that isn't going to get you the results that you're looking for because there is no growth that's necessarily needed, because it's something that you can do right now. The second type of work that you can do is work that stretches you. It forces you to tap into your fullest potential in order to really hone in on getting the work done. So it's something that you really have to grow a little bit for. You have to develop a little bit more in order to be able to get this work done, to do this line of work aligned with the purpose. But the last type of work that you would do, the last type of action that you would take is something that's possible. And this is very important because this is where you want to be. This is where you're going to get the most results from, right? And so what this means is it's a possibility, meaning that the current version of yourself, it's possible for you to do it, but you have to really just grow and reinvent yourself to actually get the work done. And when I mean possible, meaning that this is how you lock into it. It's possible because you have seen somebody else already walk the path and complete the things that you are trying to do. That's how you see that it's possible. So if your goal is to put on 10 pounds of muscle, your big question, right? Your big and specific question, how can I put on 10 pounds of muscle in the next 60 days? So you look into what's possible based upon who has already done that. right? Who has made content within that? Who has a mentorship that literally teaches that specific thing, how to put on 10 pounds of muscle, right? So you find the person who's already done it and you get into alignment with what they did. Because if you do exactly what they did, you will get the same result, if not a better result, right? Because we're all human. We all got the same 24 hours in a day. So if somebody else did it and they documented the journey, if you literally get into alignment with what they did and do it, you will get the same results. Another example could be, your big and specific question could be, how do I double my income in the next 60 days? Right? You obviously have to become a new person. You have to do new things because what you've been doing has not been working. So you figure out who is somebody who's done that, right? This may be within your job. You may work a sales job, right? You may do door-to-door sales. So you may want to look at who within the company has doubled their income in 2 months, right? Who is just a complete absolute sales killer, who is just making bank every single month, who's doubled their income. How do I adopt their mentality? How do I adopt their beliefs? What actions do I need to take that I'm currently not taking that they do that gets them to that outcome? So that is the route that you want to take. It's big and specific, because something vague would be, how do I double my income? Right? How do I double my income in a year? It's specific things, but the time frame is not short enough to where it's really challenging you. So the bigger idea that you have, the bigger question that you can ask, and the more specific that you can become within the time frame and within the actual line of work that you are going to be doing, the more specific the answer is going to be, and the more aligned it is going to be to get you the fastest results possible with the most simplicity. You may make the excuse, oh, I don't have enough time. I work my 9 to 5 and then I don't have enough time when I get off work to work on my side hustle. That's an excuse because you are just doing a whole bunch of stuff that does not actually move the needle forward. You may feel like you're being productive, but you're just busy, so you're doing things that don't necessarily matter. But if you can get into alignment with somebody who's already accomplished the goal that you've already set out for yourself and just do what they did, that is the fastest route to your achievement. That is the fastest route to your growth and your success. And so another example, just from my personal life and what I did, a big and specific question that I asked myself was simply, how can I improve my discipline and strengthen my relationship with God in the next 30 days? And so what I did was, that's a very big and specific question. So what I did is basically look for mentorship, right? Look for people look for other men of God who've increased their discipline, meaning their physique looks better than mine. They're probably making more money than me. And I see that they're living a righteous lifestyle, right? So I looked for people who have already done this, because clearly they've done something, or they're doing things that I'm not currently doing, right? And I haven't stretched and became the person who can do these things yet. So let me just look to where it's possible based upon somebody else doing it. And so the answer that I found is simply, okay, create a morning routine that's directly aligned with those goals. So I started waking up earlier. I started doing push-ups every single day. I started going to the gym 4 times a week. And what improved my relationship with God is simply reading a proverb a day. So every single day, part of my morning routine is reading a daily proverb. I read 1 chapter based upon the day of the month that it is. So today is July the 6th, so I read Proverb 6. And this literally gives me direct access to God's wisdom. It helps me grow mentally as a man. It helps me grow spiritually as a man. It brings me closer to God because it gives me insight as to how I'm supposed to govern myself, as to how I'm supposed to live, as to how I'm supposed to lead myself, as to how I'm supposed to lead other people, as to how I'm supposed to show up in my community, as to how I'm supposed to serve other people. It literally gives me all that wisdom and that access. So I read it, meditate on it to understand it, and then I take action on it. So it's not just a simple process of just reading, going on to the next thing, but it's literally just locking in, reading it, understanding it, and then applying it in my day-to-day life. So by following that every single day, and now it's just a rinse and repeat, it's just a natural habit for me, I have improved my discipline and I have improved my relationship with God. Big and specific question, big and specific answer, doing it, I got big and specific results, right? Because before I was reading that daily proverb, my relationship with God was just nowhere near what it is now. Before I was waking up early, prioritizing going to the gym 4 times a week, doing 100 push-ups a day, my discipline was nowhere near where it is now. I would just wake up whenever I wanted to. My gym workouts was mediocre, and I just didn't have the discipline to just do 100 push-ups every day because it wasn't a priority. So this is a simple but not easy system to follow, because it's very, very, very difficult for you to stay consistent. But all you have to do to be consistent is realize that you have to just form habits. Because in the beginning, it was difficult for me to wake up at 4:30 on the weekdays, and it was difficult for me to read a daily proverb simply because it was new, right? You have to stop thinking that things are so challenging, so hard, so difficult. They are just simply new. Because once you do it over X amount of time, for 30 to 60 days, it'll naturally become a habit. And so once something becomes a habit, you don't exert all this willpower to do it. It's not just being disciplined when you do it. Like, I don't consider myself waking up at 4:30 a.m., doing my 100 push-ups and reading my daily proverb. I don't necessarily consider that being disciplined, because that's literally in my routine. That's a part of me. Like, it's just natural for me to do it now. So I'm just being myself, doing what I would naturally do. So it doesn't take any discipline or willpower to do that. It's just automatic. So once you get to that point, now you know that a habit is formed, and now everything seems effortless. This is why the 1%ers look like everything they're doing is just effortless, because they've formulated the right habits. And in order to formulate the right habits, you have to get rid of the negative habits. Before you can add things to your plate, before you try new routines, remove what does not matter. So what I had to remove if I wanted to wake up early is scrolling on social media all night and going to bed at a certain time, right? If I wanted to prioritize getting in my reading my daily proverb, I had to not wake up and immediately just get on my phone. If I wanted to prioritize actually making progress in the gym and with my physique, I had to make sure that I was on a specific training program and nutrition program to actually see the results and just simply take action. But over time, it got easier and it got easier and it got easier to the point where it became a habit. Stop just simply looking for the payoff, the lifestyle, the finances, right? Stop looking for all the materialistic things and find your purpose. Who is God calling you to be? Once you figure out who God is calling you to be, what is the one important thing that you should be doing every single day that is aligned with the purpose that God has instilled within you? Now, what are you going to have to do, or what are you going to have to stop doing to make sure that you fulfill that prioritized work and complete it every single day with no excuses? Then and only then can you even expect to receive the payoff or the outcome that you desire. Because without the other three pillars, the payoff is non-existent. So always formulate the correct habits, remove the wrong habits, and just be consistent. And it'll be a seamless process to achieve any of the goals that you have set out for yourself. Simple. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.